I get questions all the time in my inbox and I type a lot of responses. And I was thinking, you know what? I think I'm just going to answer this round on video so everybody can see what I'm answering, and maybe you can throw in your own thoughts in the comments. So I've got a few questions I'm going to answer today, gardening related stuff. And the first one is Hannah at Mother Earth News. I write for their blog over there at Mother Earth News. She sent me a email from EK, who was asking about growing garlic in Florida. She writes, I enjoyed reading the Mother Earth News article on growing grape garlic in the August-September issue. I live in Zone 10A on Florida's East Coast and have growing garlic during fall and winter months here for several years without much luck. Cloves I plant in October produce greens, top growth, but no bulbs. I'm a St. Lucie County master gardener, so soil fertility, water, garden bed location, and other gardening basics are not an issue. Other gardeners in this area also have had poor results. The best results we're able to get are good top growth, which tastes great. However, top growth is not why we grow garlic. Do you know of anyone in Zone 10 who has had success growing garlic to produce a full-size bulb? No, I have not met anybody that's had great success, particularly that far south. Garlic likes it colder. I did good with garlic when I was in Tennessee. I do pretty badly with garlic here, even in North Florida and down in Zone 10. You're coming towards the tropics. That doesn't mean that there's not something like garlic that you could grow. There are some more tropical onions or alliums or members of that close garlic family that you might be able to pull off, but I don't really have a good suggestion on garlic. I haven't had luck with it myself, and I know my soil is good and everything else. It's just too warm. It tends to rot, tends to get small, makes a lot of top growth, and doesn't do much of anything else. I think it's because it doesn't have a good dormant season to save up for, so it ends up just kind of screwy. So then I got an email today on elephant manure. Cindy asks, do you recommend it for the garden? Yes, I like elephant manure. I've used elephant manure before. The problem with elephants, just like the problem with a lot of other ruminants, is that they are now often being fed things that may be filled with toxic herbicides. So if they're eating hay, they may be getting aminopyrrolid contamination. And if you've read my book, Compost Everything, I've written a lot on aminopyrrolids and how they can totally screw your garden up for 3 years or more. Sometimes you can get one batch of hay that's been contaminated or straw that's been contaminated, and the animal will eat it. They can be grazing on a field that's been sprayed with aminopyrrolids, and the stuff gets taken up in the grass. The animal eats it, it passes through into the manure, and bam, you use that manure and you will torch everything for the next few years. Stuff just does not want to grow. Your plants will start to pop up, and then the centers of them will all start twisting and getting all screwed up looking. They get all curly, whirly, and nasty looking. The stuff is satanic and it's evil. It's often sold as graze on. Don't don't trust any manure unless you know exactly what the animal's eating. Elephants included, unfortunately. I suppose if they were just eating peanuts, you'd probably be fine. But anything in the grass family that graze on aminopyrrolids are select against broadleaf leaves. So if you've got grasses, it won't hurt them and everything looks like it's fine. But if it gets eaten by an animal, it goes through in the manure and it'll screw your garden up for good. Trust me, I've lost over $1,000 worth of plants due to a run-in with some cow manure. So yes, I recommend elephant manure if you know the elephants aren't eating anything weird, and I don't know how you can tell that unless you ask the elephant, and the elephant remembers because they're apparently good at that. Okay, then I got a question. Wendy, after seeing the video I did on Cob this last week, writes, "Any idea if they do structures like Cob Houses?" Yes, they do Cob Houses. It's very labor intensive, but the fact is, if you're able to use manure, well, they've used manure, clay, straw, things like that are local. I mean, you may build your house out of dung. I mean, it sounds terrible, but it's often been mixed into cob. If you have those, yeah, actually, if you had aminopyrrolid contaminated manure, why not build a house out of it, right? I mean, why not? At least the weeds aren't going to grow out of your windows or something. Yes, they build cob houses, and there are cob houses that have stood for centuries, and it's not all that different from adobe construction using earth in a way that's local and cheap. It's just it takes a lot of work to mix it all up and pack it all in, but the thermal mass of the stuff is fantastic. So, I would probably use it for a smaller building before I tried a house, maybe a little cabin or something, just as a test. But yeah, you can use cob to build houses. Got another question on compost. On another note, if you would please answer, is it okay to add compost to the bin on a daily basis? One school of thought says no, only add weekly. But we make compost every day with our vegetable and food scraps, etc., and living in an area with a lot of rodent and other critter problems, we can leave food scraps in the open. I'm guessing we can't leave food scraps in the open until they can be put in the composter. I would like to add compost daily, but I've been told it's not a good idea. What's the correct way to proceed on this? Well, animals do directly compost. I mean, you just don't know where their droppings are going to end up, but they will turn stuff into compost pretty quickly. However, obviously, you don't want rats running around your yard and that sort of thing. So, I I have had the same issue back when I used to deal with bin and little wheelie dealy composters and stuff like that. I don't mess around with it most of that stuff anymore. I tend to pile up a bunch of stuff and leave it alone without bothering to turn it. So my recommendation will be to have two compost piles. One that's your regular pile. When that one gets filled up, turn around and start the other one. And then by the time that one gets filled up, the first one's going to be ready. So if you've got it that you can contain it, you put hardware cloth around it, put a board on top with some bricks on top of a bin. I used an old refrigerator for quite a while to compost in. Something like that, then you can compost actively in one. Just keep piling stuff in there. And I would collect a lot of leaves in the fall and leave bags of leaves. And then every time I threw in um, any kind of wet, nasty, sloppy stuff from the kitchen or coffee grounds or beef stew or whatever else, I would pour that in there, throw in a bunch of leaves with it, and then cover it all up again so the animals wouldn't get into it. And I made some fantastic compost, but it would take 6 months to a year, for a big old bin of it to go. If you want to, make everything really nicely and quickly, you're going to have all the materials present at one time. So you may just put them aside in a big trash can until you've got enough stuff where you feel like you can make a hot pile, then put them all in one at once, and then start filling that trash can up again. So there's a couple of thoughts. Um, if you don't have my book, Compost Everything, I hope you'll check it out. I've got tons of information on composting, everything from human waste to composting fish guts and making your own fish emulsion to composting with basically no work at all, and even to growing plants that you can use for compost. So the book is called Compost Everything, published by Castalia House, and you can find that on Amazon under David the Good. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I hope that you'll hit like and share it and do all that kind of cool stuff. I'll catch up with you all soon and answer more questions some point in the future.